Welcome in. You are sitting courtside with Karli Bell. We are a little bit less than 4 or 5 days away from the WNBA trade deadline, but that does not stop certain teams from getting things done early, including the Minnesota Lynx, who, good Lord, they're able to acquire about anybody. Devereaux Peters said it best. I believe it was Devereaux Peters on Twitter who said, it's kind of wild that Cheryl Reeve can get some unbelievable players for next to nothing. And that is the case, as the Minnesota Lynx did acquire DiJonai Carrington in a trade with the Dallas Wings. In exchange for DiJonai Carrington, the Dallas Wings got Diamond Miller, Carly Samuelson, and Minnesota's 2027 second round pick. Basically, that 2023, 2022 through 2024 Connecticut Sun team guard play is all in in Minnesota, because you have Brittany Williams, Natisha Heidemann, and DiJonai Carrington reunited up there, and then the post group and Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner are in Phoenix. So man, those players off that team have done really well in going on top contending teams. Then also, New York Liberty signed Emma Mieseman to a rest of season contract. And even though the Liberty are kind of falling apart right now, Emma Mieseman in her second second game with the team, putting up 11 points, 2 boards, and 3 dimes. So I think those top 3 teams, I've said it every single week, in New York, Minnesota, and Phoenix are going to be the teams to watch. I think Atlanta's also just having a really, really unbelievable season. I think they can also, play spoiler maybe a little bit later. We'll see. And then outside of that, Indiana, they're doing well without Caitlin Clark. They're a team that has enough depth in the guard group that they necessarily don't need Caitlin Clark, but they are able to kind of get away with it for the time being. And then Seattle is starting to fall apart here at the end of the season. They started out real hot, but you can really tell how badly they're missing some players, and how they're just not able to pull it all together. Las Vegas, though, is starting to maybe find some rhythm. Washington's doing really well. LA has an easy end of season, so they might sneak into the playoffs. And then at the very bottom of the pack is the same old in Dallas, Chicago, and Connecticut. There are, I believe we might see a couple more trades here in the last half of the season. If I'm looking at Seattle's roster, yeah, you're not losing NECA, Skylar, Gabby, or Erica. I think Ezzy also, and you're not going to lose your pick. I think Alicia Clark might be somebody that could be on the move. I think that could be very possible if they want to kind of make this push here late, because she's just not having the best season overall. I think she is someone that could possibly be on the move if Seattle wanted to make some type of acquisition late. I think Las Vegas is in a spot where I don't think they're going to make any more moves. I think them acquiring Nalissa Smith was the right move for them. I think they're actually set across the board. It's all about whether, and they're also going to get Cheyenne Parker-Tyus back hopefully here shortly, because she did just have her pregnancy. I don't know if Indiana makes any moves, honestly. I think Atlanta's just clicking really well right now, that I don't think they feel like they need to make a move. The teams that I think could make moves here late would be Seattle and possibly Golden State. And if I'm Seattle, you would maybe shop Alicia Clark. That's kind of your tradable piece right now, because you're obviously not going to give up NECA. You're not going to give up Gabby, Erica Wheeler. Ezzy is somebody that you could shop around, but she provides size and great defensive ability that you don't want to give that up. Who I think they could make that trade with. I don't know if Dallas is going to just shop everybody away. I also don't know if Connecticut would also possibly want to do any trades. If there was a trade to happen, it's more like if Dallas wants to shop some people around, which, I mean, they basically given away their whole roster already. Maybe something happens between Seattle and Golden State, because Golden State needs some bodies right now because they're a little shorthanded at the moment. But again, you don't know, because it's one of those things where certain teams in the bottom of the pack kind of want to if they want to, they kind of need to accept that maybe their season is over and they're not making the push. Dallas, I think, is in that situation. I also think Connecticut's in that situation where they're completely okay shopping players around. Maybe you see Marina Mabrey go to Seattle here in the last little bit for Alicia Clark. That could be an opportunity there, but I don't know. I think it's very dependent on what teams need, because some teams sit there and they go, you know what, we're set with who we have. Would we be open to shopping players? Yes, but are we getting what would make sense in return for them, whether that be draft capital, whether that be other players? I don't know. And I would not be shocked if we don't see any other moves, but I think we may only see a couple more, because New York's kind of in a good spot now that they have Emma Meesum in. You have Minnesota picking up DiJonai. I don't think Atlanta's going to make any moves, because I think they just have really good synergy and good chemistry, and it's just working for them right now. And Phoenix is also in a good spot now that they were able to acquire DeWanna Bonner. So unless there's like a wave that happens, like you saw with LA, the Alyssa Pilley was waived by the Minnesota Lynx and then she was picked up by the LA Sparks. So maybe you see something like that happen instead of maybe a trade, because you may want to waive somebody and say, thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. We think another team's going to need you more right now than we do. So maybe you see something like that in Atlanta or Seattle. Maybe you see them make a wave with somebody and go, we appreciate you, but we're going to go get somebody else on the wire that can help. Similar to what the Chicago Sky did in waiving Mariah Jefferson in order to acquire Sevgi Uzun. That could be the move that we see here in the second half of the season. But honestly, like, I don't know. We may only see one or two more trades happening. And that's really kind of all I can talk about from a WNBA standpoint. We kind of just need to see what the moves happen, and then we can have a better gauge on what the seeding for playoffs would be, what we could see for possible matchups in the playoffs. So before I get into answering some questions that I put out on Twitter, make sure you follow us at Courtside KB on all platforms. That's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky. Make sure you check out our website, Courtside with Karli Bell. Make sure you join that Patreon for anyone that wanted to hear what my thoughts were on the Sevgi Uzun signing. You go over to that Patreon, you join that man-to-man tier at patreon.com/courtside with Karli Bell. That's where all that exclusive content will be every Thursday. That is where the trade deadline special will be this week, because I believe the trade deadline is on Thursday. So it'll come out a little bit later that day. Okay, I can continue to repeat the same issues that are happening with the Chicago Sky, but I feel like that would be boring. No? I feel like that would be boring if I could just continue to say that they're lacking defensive identity. The turnovers continue to be an issue. They are really lacking any type of movement off ball offensively. They're not getting good reads into the post. I mean, I've said it every single week since like June 12th, and it's August 4th. So I'd rather hear from y'all. So on Twitter, after the Sky picked up their 8th loss in a row, 21st loss of the season to the Phoenix Mercury on Sunday, I said, you know what? I'm going to see what questions y'all want me to talk about, because sometimes you guys are great. Oh boy, we got several questions here. At D Car Lady said, what's your thoughts on how Uzun can help Sky actually win games? I think what Sevgi is able to do is actually allow the offense to run. When you've seen her out there, one, she has these feeds into the post that work really, really well. You're seeing these over-the-top lobs that are working to Kamilla Cardoso when she is in the game. You're seeing her kind of let the offense actually have some motion and some movement. You're seeing spacing happen. That wasn't the case prior to the signing. I think if you give her a little bit of time, I believe by Thursday's game against the Atlanta Dream, she's going to feel a lot more settled into the system, because she really only had one day of practice and then it's been games since. So she's really learning on the fly, hence the high turnover rate out of her so far, hence why the points aren't there, but the assists are there, averaging between, I think she put up 4 in the first game and then 4 or 5 in the second game. So that is what the Sky are asking her to do. They're not asking her to be the bucket to go put up 20, 30 points a game. That's not what they need from her. They need her to run the offense, get things going, have that assist number be between 6 to 8 a game, and then she can get a couple steals here and there. That'd be great. Get maybe 6 to 8 points. That'd be solid. Miss Jada Kiss. Not necessarily a Sky question, but who are your front runners? I'm assuming this is for MIP and then 6 POY. Ooh, that's a very good question. My front runner for 6th player of the year would have to be Atlanta's Naz Hillman. I think she has just been that electric spark for Atlanta because she can get hot all the time. She put up another double-double on Sunday with 14 points and 13 rebounds. She's got a great shot from behind the arc. She provides that extra intensity and the ability for Atlanta to extend runs that they necessarily wouldn't have without her on the floor. I do believe that Naz Hillman right now, I would, at this point in the season, is 6th player of the year. I think she's just made an unbelievable candidate for that. And I think that is what I believe is 6 POY. For most improved, the name that I'm going to throw out there that I don't believe is getting enough love like she should is Azurá Stevens. You have a 6'7" center that's shooting upwards of 40 some odd % from behind the arc. She's putting up Wyatt 15-point games along with 8 boards and like all these assists. Like she's also a facilitator. I think she's doing a really great job in Atlanta, especially when they were lacking in the size department because they didn't have Cam Brink back. I think Cameron, seeing her come back from injury has been really great. But I think Azurá Stevens has been really unbelievable in helping the Sparks stretch the floor and becoming a outside facilitator and attack option that, or not attack option, an outside shooting option that has been really beneficial for the Sparks. And sometimes those clutch moments when you see her come in, she can dominate in the paint on any given night if they put her out there. But the beauty of her is that if they're going against teams like a New York or even a Chicago Sky, like teams that have a lot of size, she's able to stretch them out, bring the bigs that cover her, like the Camillas, the Jonquels, out of the paint because they have to respect her shot, which then creates space for the guards to cut through. And the other thing is Z's also hitting the shot. That was like, you saw it a little bit last year, but she was injured a lot, so she wasn't able to have consistency. I think what she's done this year for LA is really incredible. That's a great question, actually. I appreciate that question. At Master Bear Jedi, these names. Do you think Sevgi can carve out a role as the starting point guard for the rest of the season and beyond? I do. I believe that if you give her more time in just playing with her teammates, I think there is a very high chance that she could take on a starting role. I want to see what happens when Ariel Atkins does eventually come. I think she might be back by Tuesday. If not, I think she could for sure be back by Thursday. Angel's a little day-to-day. You don't really have any real timetable on that. So it's one of those things where back injuries are really tough to navigate. So that's one. I think for right now, I'm going to say the answer is yes. And I do believe she could be somebody that the Sky add on in 2026 as a point guard. But I want to see what works with Sevgi when Ariel Atkins comes back, because then are you going to have this, like if you're going to have her as a starter, are you going to have it be Sev, then Ariel, and then maybe Michaela or Rebecca, and then when Angel comes back, Angel and Kamilla? Or are you still going to have Rachel lead it with Ban Atkins? Because I believe if you have Sev as a starting point guard, then you can have Ariel there and Banham be right behind her, and then you're able to provide good rest minutes. And Banham has proven that she can run the offense, so you have an opportunity there. But I think with what Sev has been able to do, and at least creating some space and allowing some better inside feeds when you're lacking the post-to-post action that the Sky have been lacking with Angel out, I think it's something that you consider. I think she has the opportunity. The opportunity is there. Whether or not it happens, that's up to Tyler Marsh. That's not up to me. At Victoria McGee 20, I'm already apologizing right now if I butcher your handles or your names. Did Chicago ever had a shot at Carrington? Also, why has Jeff not been shown the door yet? If anyone else had made as many mistakes as he had, they would be working the frying station by now. LOL. Did Chicago have a Sky at DiJonai? No. If they were to get DiJonai, they would get her in the offseason in a free agency acquisition. That's what that wouldn't have been. The Sky had no chance at getting DiJonai whatsoever. That was not going to happen. Nor do I feel like that's the guard that the Sky needed. They needed a point guard. A majority of my questions in here are, when is Jeff getting fired? When is Tyler getting fired? All this stuff. I'm going to just say this right now. No firing is going to happen in the middle of the season. I think Sky fans, you guys act a little emotional, and I understand. I do and I don't understand because it's just a basketball team at the end of the day. But there's not going to be any midseason. That's just not going to happen. You guys need to accept it at this point that would be foolish for that to happen. That's how you really, really cause a blow up of a team more than anything else. Also, if you let go of Jeff, who's the one that's going to be making calls? Who's the one that's going to be the GM? It's not going to be, he doesn't have an assistant general manager. There are no assistant general managers within the Chicago Sky because the Chicago Sky run on bare minimum resources. No, they're not as big as, let's say, a Phoenix or a New York, where they have, 5-6 people deep in certain departments. That's just not the case in Chicago. So who's going to be the ones making the calls? Who's going to be the ones if there's another injury that happens and you need to sign a hardship contract? You don't want Marsh doing it. We've seen the W get away from the dual role of head coach and general manager, as it should. It shouldn't be on the head coach to create the roster. It should be a duo partnership in between general manager and head coach. So just stop asking for the midseason firings because it's not going to happen. I feel like you guys need to just accept it. Will there be anything happening at the end of the season? While I understand and hear the frustration of the Sky fan base, I think you guys should accept the fact that Jeff and Marsh will be here next year. Because if you think about this from a long-term perspective, if you let go of a general manager, you're letting go of the head coach because that general manager didn't bring in that head coach. You see that across all leagues. When a new GM comes in, maybe they give them the year, maybe. If not, like if they do give them the year, they're gone the year after that. And if you look about this from a long-term perspective, the Chicago Sky, who they have returning guaranteed on contract for 2026, is Angel Reese, Kamilla Cardoso, Maddy Westbeld, and Haley Van Lith, and Aisha Sioka, who is overseas. That's all you have. You have Angel and Kamilla locked in for one more year in their rookie contracts with then a 5th-year option that the team will most likely exercise and not give them an opportunity to be let go or be tradable or an asset for other teams. So if you get rid of the general manager, you're then most likely saying goodbye to the head coach, which means in the same amount of years that Angel and Kamilla have been in Chicago, that's the amount of head coaches that you would give them. If that's not already a red flag for an organization that's already getting a lot of red flags from other outside voices, outside perspectives, then I don't know what will. You can't give Angel and Kamilla their 3rd head coach in 3 years. You also can't give them a second GM that also didn't draft them. So you're creating opportunities there that if the Sky do want to build around Angel and Kamilla, and then eventually Haley and Maddy being added into the mix as they get more minutes and time under their belt, it's just not going to work. So from a long-term perspective, fans, you need to accept that Jeff Pagliacca and Tyler Marsh will be here for 2026. This was a year that, of any year for a franchise to take huge, huge swings and take huge, huge risks. The year that everyone's signing 1-year deals is the year to do it. And they took huge swings and misses. That is a risk that you take in trading a number 3 overall pick that only time will tell if it paid off. And at this point, you could say it didn't pay off because the Sky lost the opportunity to get Sonia Citron because they took a risk in bringing in Ariel Atkins, and Ariel Atkins is now injured. Take a huge risk in bringing in Courtney Vandersloot, and she gets injured at the start of the season and is out for the rest of the season. These are things that you can't predict. And as much as fans are asking for their heads, and while I understand it's all out of frustration because the Sky are not, from a win standpoint, like winning like they were last year, at least close in games, things like that. That was not, that's not what we're seeing this year. You need to accept that from a long-term standpoint, it does not make sense to get rid of them because then you're really showing these rookies a lot of distrust from the ownership group and the organization. I just don't think it would make sense to let them go. You have to accept it, Sky fans. I'm sorry. I know that's probably what you guys don't want to hear, but from a long-term perspective, and they talk about building this culture, building all of this there, then Tyler and Jeff are staying. Sorry if that's not what you wanted to hear, but that's me thinking from a long-term perspective and thinking about this, which kind of leads into somebody else who dropped a question, which was at net7474. Can we get a special assistant like the Sparks with Trammell? Something has to be done. This is again where the Sky run on very limited resources. Again, there is no assistant general manager to Jeff Pagliacca. You don't see, bigger, the departments in Chicago are substantially smaller than other WNBA teams. And that's because they don't have NBA money behind it. They don't have the investor groups that other teams do behind them that allow them to bring in those special assistants, those people to come in and be, a special aid to ownership, front office, whatever that is. They just don't have the resources to do it. Or if they do have the resources, they don't want to spend those resources to do it. At Shamika, at _ Shamika 23. Apologies if that's not how you say your name. As a fan, I feel like I need to realistically adjust my expectations for the remainder of season. What is the definition of success for the remainder of this season outside of actual wins from the perspective of the front office, coaching staff, and players? I feel like if the Sky are able to take away a couple wins from teams that they shouldn't beat here in the second half of the season, I think that's a win. I think you're also seeing a win in the development of Maddy Westbeld and Hailey Van Lith. In the minutes that they have gotten in there, you're seeing especially in Maddy Westbeld, you're seeing substantial growth in their development. I think also a huge win that's already happened this season, unfortunately she's been injured here as of late, is Angel Reese really switching into this point forward role and being more than just the big girl that's under the basket to get the boards and the putbacks. You're seeing her take on that facilitation role. You're seeing her take on the role. She can still put up double doubles and her points and her rebounds. You still want to see that you see her efficiency do well around the rim, and also see that expanded shot range continue. From a coaching standpoint, I think Tyler Marsh is doing the best that he can with the injuries that he's been dealt and the roster that he's been given. And I think that alone is a win of itself. From a front office standpoint, I think what you look at as a win is you see what happens in the offseason. That's what you take as a win. What Jeff did this year was huge risks. He took big swings, and he struck out on a majority of them because of injuries, and that's nothing he can predict. So as much as, again, you guys want to see him let go, it's not going to happen. You guys need to kind of accept the fact that he's most likely staying in Chicago. But I think seeing what the definition of success is seeing the Sky become healthy here in the next week and a half and seeing them pull out a couple big wins over teams that they necessarily shouldn't beat. GOAT _ James _ 6 _ 23. If you believe LeBron James is the GOAT, we have a different conversation to be had. Will the front office start trading players to recoup draft capital? It's clear this team won't be making the playoffs this year. I think it would happen if this team was healthy, but the team's not healthy, so why would anyone take on an injured player right now? And I think that's the case to a lot of these questions that are asking, do you think Chicago will make moves? I think if Chicago was healthy, we would be having different conversations about things happening at the trade deadline. I think because this team is not healthy right now, like Ariel Atkins is injured, Angel Reese is injured, you've had some issues, Hailey Van Lith being out for a little bit, Michaela Onyenwere being out for a little bit, you've just not seen consistent health, and that no team wants to take on somebody injured. And also with taking on an injured player, that lowers the type of capital that you can bring on, because again, you don't know how long they're going to be out, especially with Angel and Ariel in particular. You don't know how long they're going to be out. So I don't think there's going to be a move that happens because the Sky are just not healthy. Jake Kaufman. What's up, my guy? At Jake4 Kaufman. Can the Kamilla Cardoso Angel Reese front court really work? I'm truly starting to get skeptical. I think it can work. And I know people come at me because they're like, you're really harsh on Kamilla. But the reason I'm harsh on Kamilla is because she's 6'7", strong and fast, and yet she's not putting up 15, 20 points a game. And is that also a conversation about the guard group trying to force things inside? Yes. And I think that's why having that post-to-post action with Angel to Kamilla is what makes Kamilla thrive. And that's why I think that front court pairing can work. And I think Kamilla needs to understand that she's 6'7". And she needs to just continuously have that confidence in herself to know that she can do this. That's what you see the issue with. And players also have talked about it too, where you see her get the ball and instead of just taking the move, making the move and taking the shot and then trying to get your own rebound, she forces a kick out. She plays sometimes a little too scared. And you don't want someone who's 6'7" to play too scared. This is all, I think this is all a mentality thing with her because the skill set's there. She can finish around the rim. She's a good rebounder. I think she's also being guarded a lot harder this year than she was as a rookie because no one really knew what she could do. And now they've studied her. They've seen her tape. They know how to guard her. I think this is her having to learn how to make adjustments. She can deal with the physicality. She can deal with the speed. This is her having to make adjustments and understand that she has the confidence to do this. I think she can do this if she believes she can do this. And I know I sound like a psychologist or a psychiatrist in that regard, but it's true. So this game is so mental. Basketball is incredibly mental. And if she doesn't believe she can do something, then it's not going to happen because then you're going to see the kickouts that to the forced threes and things like that. She needs to believe in herself and that's how she can happen. And I think her pairing with Angel allows that confidence to continue. At the damn doctor, I answered one of your questions last week. I'm going to do this. I've answered this first part, but I like the second part of this question. Trade deadline is next week. Do you see Chicago making any moves? No, because they're not healthy. Also with Maddy, she's been getting more minutes. Does it make sense for her to slide in at the 3 or the 4 next to Angel or back up Angel at the 4 off the bench? Ooh, I like that question. I think what Maddy is able to do, I think it's all dependent on the lineup. And that's the beauty of what Maddy Westbeld brings. She's got the physicality and the speed to keep up with about anybody, but she does play the toughest position in basketball. And you're seeing the in the league, excuse me. I'd also say in basketball, that's, personal bias. But I think you're seeing that confidence grow and grow with her every single game. And this is something I'm going to write about here shortly. But I think for her to become a little bit more of a threat from a Sky's offensive standpoint, I think her backing up Angel is a good move. But I think that's something that you see more in her second year. Whereas I think this year, having her come in and play a little bit more of the 3, backing up more Michaela and Rebecca is a good option. But I think for right now, I've really actually liked her playing at the 4 because she's a 4. What she has that Angel doesn't have is Maddy has the ability to knock down the 3. She's got that expanded shot range that Angel doesn't have. What Angel does have that Maddy doesn't have is Angel's battling inside on the boards. So I think there is a lineup that you could see when Angel gets healthy, where Angel's the 5, Maddy's the 4, Michaela's the 3, Ariel's the 2, and Sev is the 1. I think that would be a very fun lineup because then you have 4 shooters and you also have you have a shooter in Maddy Westbeld who's 6'3" that can battle inside and can create post-to-post actions, can create feeds there once she gets more confident and comfortable, which you're seeing each and every game. And you're really seeing her settle in here. And Tyler Marsh said it after the Phoenix game, you don't see a lot of second round picks lasting this long. And it's true. A credit to her work ethic and what she's been able to do here in this last part of the season. Injuries have also helped because she's been able to get more minutes. Same thing with Haley Van Lith. But I really think I would say Maddy backing up Angel is a good option because then you can have Angel give Kamilla relief if you want to, or have it be Angel and Ewell, or if you wanted to go what would be considered a smaller lineup is the lineup I said with Angel at the 5, Maddy at the 4, Mick at the 3, Ariel at the 2, and Sev at the 1. That would be considered a smaller lineup. I think that would be a fun lineup to see once Angel does get healthy. Let's do one more. At Justice Quest 2B, that's Dawn. Shout out, girl. Love you. You're fantastic. What is the source of the disconnect? The source of the disconnect is a combination of injuries, and Tyler Marsh said it best, which is there's a lack of competitiveness. You see it in spurts in the game. You're not seeing it consistently throughout the game. That's the disconnect. I also believe the moment Courtney Vandersloot went down, the whole identity of this team was lost. And they're now trying to find it. And when you have 2 people that were really helping and building that identity in Ariel Atkins and Angel Reese go down with injuries, that makes it really hard to kind of have anything happen. It's 2 players that can put up a 20 spot at any given point. That's hard. So injuries are the biggest thing that lead to the disconnect for the Sky right now. You need them to get healthy. And I think if they can get healthy, I think they can, again, I've said it before, but I think they can steal away a couple wins against teams that they shouldn't beat. on paper. That sin bin stream. Are the Sky doing anything different on defense? What are they working on in practice? I have not been at practice in a couple weeks, so I can't necessarily answer that second part of the question because I was moving. So moving took a priority over practice. Are the Sky doing anything different on defense? Yes. You saw more man to open up the season, and now they're more in a zone. And I think just what's been lacking overall all season is just a defensive identity. It just hasn't. I can't tell you what they do on defense because it's not a team that wants to pick pockets and create turnovers. They're not a team that is focused on heavily guarding the paint. They're not a team that's heavily focused on guarding the perimeter. They're kind of a team that doesn't have a defensive identity. They just play defense. And if anyone plays basketball knows what I mean by that, they just play defense. They just try to not let people get by them. And that only works for so long. And you've seen it. There's rotations, there's miss switching, they get hedged constantly. For whatever reason, they just can't get it together. And that's something I'd really like to see as a defensive identity here in the second half of the season. You're not it's also not a team that blocks a lot of shots. It's not you know what I mean? Like there's no one part of defense that's sticking out of their defensive identity. So I can't really tell you what they're doing on defense because I frankly can't figure it out either. I've been trying to figure it out all season. It's just non-existent. So I can't tell you what they're doing on defense because they frankly just all they do is play defense. They have no defensive identity. I appreciated all those questions. Y'all asked a lot more, but I'm not trying to sit on here for an hour, nor am I trying to edit for an hour. So I appreciate all your questions. Maybe we start doing this more. I may do a live podcast here coming up soon where I answer all your questions live. So we'll see what happens there. But that's all I have here on this week's episode of Courtside with Karli Bell. Again, make sure you follow us at Courtside KB on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Threads, and Blue Sky, or TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube account, which is at Courtside with Karli Bell. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe there. Make sure you check out our website, courtsidewithkarlibell.com. And if you like hearing me talk even more, go over to that Patreon, patreon.com/courtsidewithkarlibell, and join that man-to-man tier. That's all I have for you this week. Catch you next time on the sidelines.